Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston, Chapter 5. On the train the next day, Joe didn't make many speeches with rhymes to her, but he bought her the best things the butcher had, like apples and a glass lantern full of candies. Mostly he talked about plans for the town when he got there. They were bound to need somebody like him. Janie took a lot of looks at him, and she was proud of what she saw. Kind of portly, like rich white folks. Strange trains and people and places didn't scare him neither. Where they got off the train at Maitland, he found a buggy to carry them over to the colored town right away. It was early in the afternoon when they got there, so Joe said they must walk over the place and look around. They locked arms and strolled from end to end of the town. Joe noted the scant dozen of shame-faced houses scattered in the sand and palmetto roots and said, "God, they call this a town? Why ain't they nothing but a raw place in the woods?" It's a whole heap littler than I thought, Janie admitted her disappointment. "Just like I thought," Joe said. A whole heap of talk and nobody doing nothing. "God, where's the mayor?" he asked somebody. "I want to speak with the mayor." Two men who were sitting on their shoulder blades under a huge live oak tree sat upright at the tone of his voice. They stared at Joe's face, his clothes, and his wife. "Where y'all come from in such a big haste?" Lee Coker asked. So let's pause here and talk about where Jody and Janie are going. So they are going to a place called Eatonville, which is located in Florida. It's a rural place close to Orlando. And at this period of time, Eatonville was just getting started. And so Eatonville is the first incorporated all-black city in the nation. And it's also important to African-American history as the home of Zora Neale Hurston, our author, and she's a Harlem Renaissance writer. And so Zora Neale Hurston called Eatonville her home, and that's one of the reasons why she writes about it here, because she knows it so well. But Eatonville is historically very important because it was the first all-black city. It was founded by a black community, and it was built ground up by the black community. And so Jody is going to be one of the major players in the development of this town. But let's see how it goes. "Middle Gorgie," Starks answered briskly. "Joe Starks is my name, from and through Gorgie." "You and your daughter going to join with us in fellowship?" the other reclining figure asked. "Mighty glad to have you. Hicks is the name. Governor Amos Hicks from Beaufort, South Carolina. Free, single, disengaged." God, ain't nowhere old enough to have a grown daughter. This here my wife." Hicks sank back down and lost interest at once. "Where's the mayor?" Starks persisted. "I want to talk with him." "You's a mite too previous for that," Coker told him. "Us ain't got none yet." "Ain't got no mayor? Well, who tells y'all what to do?" "Nobody. Everybody's grown, and then again, I reckon us just ain't thought about it." I ain't. I did think about it one day," Hicks said dreamily. "But then I forgot, and I ain't thought about it since then." "No wonder things ain't no better," Joe commented. "I'm buying in here, and buying 'em big. Soon we find some place to sleep tonight, us menfolk to call people together to form a committee. Then we can get things moving around here." "I can point you where you can sleep," Hicks offered. "Man got his house done built and his wife ain't come yet." Starks and Janie moved on off in the direction indicated, with Hicks and Coker boring into their backs with looks. And so before we jump into this conversation between Coker and Hicks, I want for you to note how their conversation is going to return to Chapter 1's theme on gossip, where Coker and Hicks are going to gossip about Janie and Jody. So I want for you guys to kind of compare how the gossip from Chapter 1 is similar and different from the gossip that we're going to see here in Chapter 5. And I'd like for you to consider why Hurston has these common themes of gossip reoccurring throughout her novel. Why is she doing this? "That man there's like a section foreman," Coker commented. "He's mighty compelment." "Shucks," said Hicks. "My britches is just as long as his, but that wife of his, I'm a son of a combunction if I ain't got to Gorgie and get me one just like her." "What with?" "With my talk, man. It takes money to feed pretty women. They's get a lavish a talk." "Not like mine. They loves to hear me talk because they can't understand it. My co-talking is too deep. Got much code to it." "You don't believe me, do you? You don't know the women. I can get my command." "You ain't never seen me when I'm out pleasuring and giving pleasure." It's a good thing he's married her before she seen me. I can be some trouble when I take a notion. I'm a baby round lady people. I'd much rather see all that than hear about it. Come on, let's go and see what's going on about this town. They got up and sauntered over to where Starks was living for the present. Already the town had found the strangers. Joe was on the porch talking to a small group of men. Janie could be seen through the bedroom window getting settled. Joe had rented the house for a month. The men were all around him, and he was talking to them by asking questions. What is the real name of this place? Some say West Maitland, and some say Eatonville. That's because Captain Eaton gave us some land along with Mr. Lawrence, but Captain Eaton gave it to First Place. How much did they give? Oh, about 50 acres. How much has y'all got now? Oh, about the same. That ain't near enough. Who owns the land joining on what you got? Captain Eaton? Where is this Captain Eaton? Over there in Maitland, Septon when he goes visiting or something. Let me speak to my wife a minute, and I'm gonna go see it a man. You cannot have no town without some land to build it on. Y'all ain't got enough here to cuss the cat out with getting your mouth full of hair. He ain't got no more land to give away. You needs plenty of money if you want some more. I specs to pay him. The idea was funny to them, and they wanted to laugh. They tried hard to hold it in, but enough incredulous laughter burst out of their eyes and leaked from the corner of their mouths to inform anyone of their thoughts. So Joe walked off abruptly. Most of them went along to show him the way and to be there when his bluff was called. Hicks didn't go far. He turned back to the house as soon as he felt he wouldn't be missed from the crowd and mounted the porch. Evening, Miss Starks. Good evening. You reckon you going round here? I reckon so. Anything I can do to help out? Why, you can call on me. Much obliged. So, while I continue reading, so while we go through the next couple of pages, I want for you to keep track of what is Jody's plan for Eatonville. Okay, so Jody has big plans. He has a dream. What is his plan for Eatonville? Well, to start, and we'll keep track of some more things, he plans to buy more land from Captain Eaton, so that's been covered in this page. He wants to turn Eatonville into a proper town with a mayor, and the townspeople don't believe he has the money to do it. That's why they are laughing at him. So what I want you to think about for the next couple of pages is, do you think he'll be able to do it? All right, so what's Jody's plan for Eatonville, and do you think he'll be able to do it? Let's see. There was a long, dead pause. Janie was not jumping at her chance like she ought to. Looks like she didn't hardly know he was there. She needed waking up. Folks must be mighty closed-mouthed where you come from. That's right, but it must be different at your home. He was a long time thinking, but finally he saw and stumbled down the steps with the Shirley by. So essentially Hicks was flirting with Janie, and she wasn't having anything to do with it, and she shut him down, and he finally realized that, he wasn't going to be able to woo her. So he says bye, and she says goodbye. That night Coker asked him about it. I saw you when you ducked back to the Starks' house. Well, how'd you make out? Who, me? I ain't been near the place, man. I've been down to the lake trying to catch some fish. Uh-huh. That woman ain't so awfully pretty, nohow, when you take a second look at her. I had to sort of pass by the house on the way back and seen her good. Ain't nothing to her except that long hair. And anyhow, I done looking like to the man. I wouldn't harm him at all. She ain't half as pretty as the gals I run off and left up in South Carolina. Hicks, I'd get mad and say you was lying if I didn't know you so good. You just talking to consolate yourself by word of mouth. You got a willing mind, but you's too light behind. A whole heap of men see the same thing you seen, but they got better sense than you. You ought to know you can't take a woman like that from no man like him. A man that's up and buys 200 acres of land at one whack and pays cash for it. Nah, he didn't buy it sure enough. He sure did. Come off with the papers in his pocket. He done called a meeting on his porch tomorrow. Ain't never seen no such man before in all my bond days. He's going to put up a store and get a post office from the government. That irritated Hicks, and he didn't know why. He was the average mortal. It troubled him to get used to the world one way and then suddenly have it turn different. He wasn't ready to think of colored people in the post offices yet. He laughed boisterously. Y'all let that stray tell y'all any old lie? A man sitting up in the post office, he made an obscene sound. He's liable to do it, Hicks. I hope so anyhow. Us folks is too envious of one another. That's how they don't give us no further than us do. Us talks about the white man keeping us down. Shucks, we don't have to. Us keeps ourselves down. Now, who said I didn't want a man to get us a post office? He can be the king of Jerusalem for all I care. Still and all, Ain't no use us telling lies because a heap of folks don't know better. Your common sense ought to tell you white folks ain't gonna let him run no post office. So we're kind of like hearing Hicks and his friend kind of argue about whether Jody's going to be able to successfully open a town with a legitimate post office, which is kind of at this point in time what the town needed to be considered a town. They needed a mailing post office so mail could go to it. And so Hicks is really unhappy and he's doubting Jody and he says it's not going to happen. But why is Hicks acting like this? Why is he so unhappy? And so when Hicks is rejected by Janie, he goes and claims that she's actually isn't as pretty as people think. So he's kind of trying to defend his honor. She rejected him and he doesn't want to admit it. So he says that she's not that pretty. And he's also kind of rejecting Jody. He says that Jody won't be able to buy the land, but then Jody does. And this makes Hicks uncomfortable. One, just because the change makes him uncomfortable and because it makes him feel like less of a man. So it's the idea that he can't have a wife like Janie and he doesn't have money like Jody and he can't do the things that Jody's doing, and that makes him very aware of his own shortcomings. And so Hicks is resenting the changes that Jody is bringing. And so he's trying to kind of hide his self-consciousness behind this animosity and this doubt. But that's the reason why Hicks is acting the way he's acting. And so this is going to cause a bigger problem later on. But let's wait and see kind of how that comes to pass. So this refers back to the first chapter when we talk about the idea of men having this ambition and focusing on that ambition. And so with Hicks, he doesn't have the same kind of dreams that Jody has. And so he feels as though he's living less of a life and he's less of a man because of it. And so Hurston's showing this analogy within how Hicks is reacting. All right, let's go to the next page. That we don't know Hicks. He says he can, and I believe he knows what he's talking about. I reckon if colored folks got their own town, they can have post offices and whatever they please regardless. And then again, I don't expect white folks way off yonder give a damn. Let us wait and see. Oh, I'm waiting all right. Expects to keep on waiting until hell freezes over. Get reconciled. That woman don't want you. You gotta learn that all the women in the world ain't been brought up on no tempatine still, and no sawmill camp. There's some women that just ain't for you to broach. You can't get with her with no fish sandwich. They argued a bit more, then went to the house where Joe was and found him in his shirt sleeves, standing with his legs wide apart, asking questions and smoking a cigar. Where's the closest sawmill? He was asking Tony Taylor. About 7 miles going toward Topeka, Tony told him, thinking about the building right away. Yeah, but not the house I expects to live in. That can wait till I make up my mind about where I wants it located. I figures we all need a store in a big hurry. A store? Tony shouted in surprise. Yeah, a store. Right here in town with everything in it you needs. They ain't a bit of use in everybody progging away over to Maitland to buy a little meal and flour when they can just get it right here. That would be kind of nice, Brother Starks, since you mention it. So I'm going to pause here and go to our next video so we don't get cut off. So I will see you in Chapter 5, Part 2.